Hi, everybody. Welcome to 52 Weeks of Leadership. My name is Molly Anderson, Executive Director of the UB Center for Leadership and Organizational Effectiveness. Can you believe it is already week 35? It's also the first week of school here at the University of Buffalo. And our faculty and experts have really devoted a lot of time and energy to creating new program every week. We're especially thankful for today's presenter, Dr. Dorothy Shaw-Samoa, who is speaking on the first day of school. She is a clinical associate professor in organization and human resources, as well as the faculty director of our global programs. Today, she's going to be talking about leading with an intercultural mindset. So before we begin, I just want to thank our sponsor, Geico, and everybody who's joined us week in and week out. With that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Dorothy.
Thank you so much, Molly. Thank you for having me back. It feels at home. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. So today we're going to talk about leading with an intercultural mindset. And just so you know, I remain a student of intercultural mindset. And so I'll be sharing a lot of examples and work done by those who have gone before me, but it is wonderful to have you here. My plan for us today is just to scratch the surface. My hope is that we'll be able to touch on the what, the how, and the why. And as I said earlier, I'll be leaning on to work done by Dr. Diado from Duke University and Dr. Mitchell Ham. So we will have some fun as well. So I am asking that you pull your phones, because on the next slide, I'm going to have you take a picture. And I want you to send a word. What comes to mind when you think about intercultural mindset? So as we do that, just follow the prompt and you will get to where you need to share your thoughts with us. And we will come back to it as we proceed. Okay, Mentimeter.com, enter the code. And the question is, what comes to mind when you think about intercultural mindset? Keep it going, because we will see it here. We won't see your name, but we'll see your word. Okay. All right, inclusion, thank you. Inclusivity, that's great. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Openness, yes, that's a good one. That's a good one. Keep it coming. New ideas. Lisa, thank you. Awareness. Wonderful. Okay. So Robert will keep keeping top of that, and I will keep sharing the different things that we'll be talking about. Okay. Thanks, Robert. Okay. So as we said, all the other words, keep sending it, because Robert will make sure I see it as we go through the session today. Now, before I get into your words, openness, diversity, inclusion, I want us to knock off some myths that we may have about this topic. The first on the list is, oh, it's only natural, I wasn't born with it, let's forget it. No, that is not true. There is something called development. And so the desire to listen, the desire to learn, will get you to where you need to get to. The second myth is, oh, I travel abroad, I've visited 60 countries. I am interculturally competent. That is also not true. And the third one is, oh, this is for leaders who work across borders. But that is not true, because we are not only all human, we also have unique similarities and differences. But what does it really mean? That's my question as we go through this quick session. Oftentimes we will find that there is no one set of definition. So keep that in mind, and it is a good strategy to know that. However, you will notice that sometimes we use culture, intercultural competence, interchangeable, and I do that. But throughout this discussion, I will stick more with intercultural mindset to emphasize the part played by individuals, groups, and communities. Now, the core of intercultural competence is culture. Culture plays a huge role in how we all approach things. And whether we know it or not, it causes us to have the desire to either expand our knowledge, expand our attitudes, explore different behaviors for that outcome. One of my favorite definitions, though, is from Dr. Hammer, who is a theorist that I study in this field. And his definition goes this way. Intercultural competence is the capacity to shift our perspectives and adopt our behavior among cross-cultural similarities and differences. I like to add another touch to this, bringing in the ability to demonstrate empathy as we experience the worldview of others and be able to behave appropriately across cultures. The absence of that competence of interculturalness, I made that word up, could cause conflict. And that conflict is not always necessarily bad, but it causes us to think critically, to examine our own cultural perspective, our own cultural dynamics, the complexity of who we are as human beings, and the process of comparing, contrasting our own with others' culture and worldview. So as I said before, culture is the center of intercultural competence. And at this moment, I want you to just imagine with me an iceberg. Think about the tip of the iceberg. That is the objective portion, where you get to see the food, the language, the arts and music, the games, the outfit, the headgear that helps you to frame the cultural background of others. But beyond and beneath that surface is a deeper part. The roles, the perception, the beliefs, the fears, the expectations, the social expectations that you do not see. One of my dear friends and colleagues who is also vested in this field, and I talk about it a lot, when you see her, you immediately put her in that category because that's what you see. But beneath her, there's more than you can even imagine. And this leads us to how our attitudes towards intercultural mindedness, our awareness, our knowledge and skills. And so as we go through this session, I want us to critically reflect on our attitudes, the awareness we have about different cultures, and the influence that the culture has on the identity and our worldview. The knowledge, which is the deep cultural knowledge that we have about understanding others. But the skill part is where I want us to pause on. Taking it quietly and being flexible in listening, in evaluating, trying to understand. And that key word there, showing empathy. Empathy is the key for us to connect the questions that we have into applying what we hope to do. And so as we have the attitudes, the awareness, the knowledge, and the skill set, I'm now moving us onto the how we connect intercultural mindset into providing an environment that is diverse and inclusive. I want to start with the who, which is diverse. Who am I? As I stand before you, there are so many layers of me that you may not know. But the core of it is my personality, right? And my unique talents. And then comes the different dimensions of my internal dimension, the external dimension, and the organizational dimension. Now, for the sake of our time together, I'm going to use an organizational dimension. And this may be funny or maybe not. But in a part of the world where I come from, there are some folks who are introduced by the title they hold. And so you'll be introduced to the chairman. You'll be introduced to the managing director. And you wonder, what's his or her name? That's where we start. But it's culture. That is how we roll. So talking about diversity as a leader, how do you intentionally get to know your team, your organizational members to understand what dimension is familiar to them? Am I just projecting my own onto them? So we're talking now about the diversity part, the mix of the differences. Now, this focuses on impact of differences. It is measured by demographic analysis. But we are being called to go a little deeper, the what. And when we talk about the what, it is not just because I'm showing up as a woman so that the box is checked, but are my feelings and my thoughts valued, and am I being engaged? This focus then causes us to desire to lead with that intercultural mindset, which then allows us to mix the who and the what. How are we able to ensure that we are focusing on capacity, not only on the who and the what? There are different ways how we can develop this competence. It is work and it's not easy. And so this picture here is something that was designed by Dr. Harmer, and it helps to give us a visual image. But in addition, there are many models out there how we can use to be able to measure this kind of scenario. So I'm sharing with you one of these models, and I'm going to use an analogy of wine. Now, don't judge me, okay? Don't judge me, because the goal here is for all of us to imagine where we fall on this continuum, because whether we like it or not, we fall somewhere. So I'll start with that wine. So here we are, I'm sharing, we are planning to have wine, and you are in a category that will say, why? Why do we have to have wine? We don't need wine, right? And another group is saying, oh my goodness, I know there are only two types. There's white, there's red wine. I think white wine is better than red. Or I think maybe, no, the red wine is better than white. The next level, oh, my goodness, there is wine here. Let's go have fun. As long as it's alcohol, I'm in it, count me in. And then the other group is saying, even better, let's invite everyone down the hall. Let's celebrate, let's have fun. And then the final group will say, you know what? I know someone who owns a vineyard. I can tell them to give us a tour and teach us how to grow wine. So on this continuum, the story fits in different ways. There's a group that is denial. We deny differences. We just deny it. It doesn't exist. Who cares? Let's forget about that. It's too much work. And then there is a group that will define us based on whether it's a they or us, them versus us. Then there is the minimization group. Bring it all in. We are all together. We are all humans. What is there about? If it's alcohol, I'm in it. And then there is the acceptance group that will celebrate. Then finally, on this continuum, according to Dr. Harmer, there is the adaptation, capable of not only celebrating, but recognizing the richness in intercultural mindset. So in order for us to develop this, you might ask, we all have to be intentional. We all have to learn to build relationships. We all have to see things from the perspective of others. And we have to understand, make the effort to understand where others are coming from. Now, based on the research, majority of us fall in the minimization category. So I'm going to just focus on that for the sake of our conversation today. And in this group, the middle group, about 66% of us fall in that category. There are two groups even within that. There is those who fall under the dominant group and those who fall in the non-dominant group. So and the dominant group, the feelings that we bring to the workplace, to wherever we show up, is comfort and tolerance. Let's all be fine with one another. We are all human beings after all. What's the problem? The strength in that category is that you seek for fairness, commonality. That is important. But the challenges, the area for improvement is that we focus so much on the commonality, but that if you're not careful, we'll miss the uniqueness. So the area for growth for us is to be self-aware that yes, we are all human beings. Yes, we all wish the same for all, but we still have unique differences that cannot be ignored. Now, on that, minimization is our non-dominant group, for whom most of us, and I'm one of them, I fall in this category, have figured out a way to survive. That when you're part of a non-dominant group in a dominant group, you over time, not knowing, push down the things that are maybe important to you so that you can survive. So as a leader leading with an intercultural mindset, what are we doing to make sure that we are not only being tolerant, which is great, but regardless of where we fall, we're recognizing that there are others who may not be on the same vein. There's strength to every side, as you can see, but there's also work to be done. So as we think about this, I want us to think about our individual contributions in aiming to be in that category, where we lead, whether as a team leader, as an organizational leader, in many ways to foster intercultural mindedness. There is an example I want to give here about recognition. We all know that organizations support that. There's research to say that when folks are recognized, they get more motivated, they want to do more. That's all good. But let's pause for a bit and think about this illustration. There's a story about a frog looking at a fish and asking, how is it in the water? The fish is saying, what? What do you mean? Water is water. We only see things from what we see, what is around us. We don't know what we don't know. And so we have to develop our own intercultural competence so that we can better understand the questions we need to ask, the right questions that will be efficient, that will be appropriate, that will be effective, so that we'll be able to cross to the other side and understand. Yes, I mentioned recognition. Your organization may really embrace the idea of recognition. Research backs that too. But as an intercultural leader, it is incumbent upon us to pause and reflect. How do I appreciate recognition? What actions, behaviors might someone do to make me feel I'm being recognized? What behaviors might my individual team members interpret as recognition? It depends. You might be thinking, I want it to be out there for everybody to see. I have one person, a member of my family, who appreciates that. And so we try to do that. But personally, in private, acknowledging is enough. But I cannot, as a leader, project that onto my team. So that's just one example. And now companies are using that even in their onboarding to get to know their employees, to figure out how can you be recognized that will be impactful to you. And if you haven't done that, that's okay. You can still do it in your one-on-one getting to know employees. Let's learn to ask those important questions. Asking those questions, helping us to tap into our curious minds, helping us to understand others, will all help us into getting into that framework of being interculturally minded. Now, Dorothy, you've talked about what it is, how I can develop it. Why is it even important? Why are you bothering us? Yes, it is important for the bottom line. And I'll give you maybe 3 or 4. By being an interculturally minded leader, you provide positive feelings towards people from different cultures. 2, positive feelings people have of you who are from different cultures. So it's a vice versa, right? I mean, what comes in goes out. You project positive interactions. You learn and do all you can to recruit people who are different from you because you are approaching every opportunity in that lens. Last but not the least, at least for this moment, is innovation. This is a skill that is being sought after by many, right? And this is an opportunity for us to explore different ways that we can tap into what we mean by diversity and inclusivity. So I'll recommend here a book by Johannes called The Medici Effect. If any of you have read it, I'd love to have a chat with you. But the principle of the valuing diversity, not only in words, but in action. The value is that the idea that you need to pair diversity, inclusion, and intercultural competency with innovation. This will be the way that we are able to create an innovative space where we will all show up with our true self, with our unique selves, with our strengths, because innovation really happens at the intersection of diversity and inclusion, because we will know that we can ask questions without fear of being penalized. We can ask questions without fear of being thought of as the other, but we feel part of the whole. Intercultural mindedness helps us to create that space. And so I encourage you that as we begin the new semester, for my colleagues on the call, and for those joining us from all over, approach the things that you do. Do not be afraid to see through the lens of intercultural mindedness. Like I said, there are many tools out there, and yet there are very few people who have embraced it. But I encourage you, if you want colleagues and professionals to come help you with your team organization, contact us as Chloe. We are able to provide that resource for you. So final takeaway, my second question to you, going back to your Mentimeter. Share with us, what did you learn today? Robert is going to take over and show us what we can. Yes, Robert, thank you. Final takeaways. What are some things that came to mind as we had this quick 20 minutes conversation? And as you shared on Mentimeter, we'll see the words and we will wrap it up. So as you are sending in your words, my final takeaway for you is this. Recognize that we are all on a journey. We're on a continuum. Nobody has arrived. A majority of us feel that we are more interculturally minded than we truly are, the data shows. More than half of us fit in that middle minimization. But in order for us to get to the next level of breakthrough innovation, we need to bring this together. So thank you. And I appreciate work in progress, that is true. Openness, that is true. And I'll now end here and hand it back to Molly.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dorothy. Are there some examples of questions and activities that we could use in our teams, especially in our remote teams where we have to make an even greater effort to get to know each other?
That is a good question. And I'll be happy if you can have the person send me an email on the side so I can share materials. But a simple conversation like this. So for example, in my native language, there is no difference between he or she. So you might hear me referring to Molly, he, and Robert, she. that is an opportunity for you to pause and say, hey, Dorothy, I heard this. Is that, and you've given me an opportunity to explain to you what that means to, because in my language, my sons and my daughter are both the same. So they're used to me hearing me, calling them the he and the she. That's a simple example. Get to know others, ask them questions, and you get to know more about that. Yes, I'll be happy to share resources later on.
Thank you. We have a question from Rick Steinberg, our executive in residence. On the intercultural development continuum, does getting from minimalization to acceptance require the same amount of work as getting from acceptance to adaptation?
Wow, trust Rick to give you the most difficult question. Yes, but there is no one answer fits all. As long as you're willing to do the work, when and how you get there will be based on how much time the work you do. It's intentional, it's painful, but it's worth doing. So thank you for asking.
Okay, Dorothy, that looks like all the questions we have today. Want to invite everybody back next week for Evangeline Young, a doctoral candidate in the Organization Human Resources Department of the School of Management. Her topic will be emotions in teams. So look forward to seeing you all. Big thanks to Dr. Dorothy and everyone here for joining us. Take care and have a great week.
Thank you all for joining us today.